Hey everybody, this is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff, which tells you exactly what we're all about. And it is a great pleasure to be able to share ideas with you, hopefully help you get some cool things happening with stuff that might have been, a bit of a vexing problem for you. If you're sharing questions with us, we're certainly hoping to be useful in that way. And I did turn on the captions. And if you didn't know that you can get captions out of Google Slides, then there's your first little tidbit for today. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you are excited to hear what Richard and I have to say. We're always kind of excited to hear from each other, but it's one of those things that we just hope that everybody else finds it at least somewhat entertaining as well. What is this Free Tech for Teachers thing?
The Free Tech for Teachers is my little blog that I started 14 years ago this fall, writing all kinds of things about all kinds of cool educational technology tools and tips, and that's what it is.
Many thousands of blog posts later, there is a resource that is unequaled. And so if you have not taken a look at freetech4teachers.com, you certainly should get that up where it can be seen. All right, my little shindig is a nonprofit called Next Vista for Learning, which is an online library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from. Videos about academic topics, videos about communities, videos about service to others. We've got other things to help those who are, who are helping kids learn English. We've got career advice videos. We've got all sorts of recorded webinars, including several dozen that Richard and I have done. So if you're looking for binge-worthy material, I'm sure that you can find some on our site, right? So, September 23rd, what do you need? Oh, September 9th. Had I changed that, it would say September 23rd. And you would know that on September 23rd, a gold rush started in South America as a result of a boat actually like running aground. Who knew? Which is to say that sometimes in life, when something goes wrong, it's actually on its way to something really cool. Perhaps some good little life lesson going on there. Bruce Springsteen was born on the 23rd in 1949, which is pretty cool. And this is Teachers Day in Brunei. Who knew? That's awesome. So all you teachers in Brunei, way to go. Bonjour from Judith in Montreal. How does this work? What we do is we answer some questions, share some cool stuff, answer some more questions, and then wind it down. So let's jump into it. Richard, if you would, talk to us about our first question.
First question came from Colleen, who asked us, I'm looking for a timeline tool where my students will build a timeline of the text. I teach 10th grade English. So I love making timelines. And my first thought was a tool that I put in the chat already, because I was jumping the gun there, Timeline.js. And I've done this myself. I've done demos of it in the past on taking a book and building a timeline based on that book. I typically have done it with history books because I taught history for many, many years, but you could do it with any kind of chronological text, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Timeline.js is great because you can use time increments down to the second of the day if you'd like to. If you want to be as specific as 8 a.m., 8:13 and 59 seconds in the morning, you could do that. You can also put in pictures, videos, you can put in audio clips, all kinds of cool stuff. It does take a little while to set it all up. The other thing I suggested is Canva. Canva, if you want something that's not multimedia, but just you want to have some nice looking text-based timelines, Canva has a whole bunch of timeline templates that you can fill out and use for all kinds of timeline purposes. So a couple of cool tools there.
Nice. So that's quite cool. I hadn't thought of Canva as a tool for that. Timeline.js is definitely a cool one. But I would also add that when you think of having students do a timeline, it is certainly cool to have a tool that shows a timeline that allows you to navigate in interesting ways. You might also just consider doing something like Google Slides, and where each slide represents a particular piece of the story. And in doing it that way, or with any other tool, it becomes perhaps all the easier to look at your canvas that is the slide as an opportunity to say, all right, we want you using media that you have legal access to. So this will be stuff that is copyright free in some way. So, perhaps it's from Unsplash or Pexels or something like that. Or it could be that you are using Creative Commons licensed material. There's a lot of good stuff. If you Google CC search, you'll find that very easily. And get them to cite their sources on the slide by doing that. Matter of fact, there's an example right there about that. Check it out, right? By getting them to do that kind of thing, you're teaching them a habit that will be important if they are going to take seriously academic pursuits for any time to come. What's our second question, Richard?
Yeah. Oh, and to follow up on what you just said about using Google Slides, you can actually make an animated timeline in Google Slides. And I just put a link to a video on how to do that in there.
Wow. Okay. So is that the second one ending in GRM?
Yes, that's the second one.
All right. I will get that over into our links page. And the first one that you put in, is that a tutorial on using Timeline.js?
That is. And in that one, I actually mentioned this book, Harry Truman's Excellent Adventure, the story of a great American road trip, all about Harry Truman driving across the country in 1953. Cool book.
Nice.
So, next question, though, came from Maria, who says, I need your help. I work with several year groups and need to share Google Sheets for parents to sign up for activities, but it is crazy. Links are sent on a set date and time, and parents get crazy about getting to pick the slots they want, and then they overwrite each other. Is there a system to do this better? So, Rushton, you had an idea, and I have an idea. What's your idea, Rushton?
Well, if you have Google Workspace for schools, for educational edu, whatever they call it at this point, when you go to create an event, one of the things that you will find is that one of the options is appointment slots. And play around with that a bit. Appointment slots can be the kind of tool that you ask for. But I don't know, and Richard, you may know, what the distinctions are among the different kinds of Google EDU workspaces in terms of what you have to pay for in order to get X or Y or Z. Do all of them allow for appointment slots?
They all allow
for outside people to use. Does that work?
Yes. The
Good.
Caveat being, you need to make sure that your domain administrator has allowed sharing outside of the domain, because otherwise that will only work for people who have email addresses from your same domain. Does that make sense? So like if your email domain is @awesomeschool.org, everybody who uses those slots would have to have @awesomeschool.org as their Google account,
Right.
unless your domain administrator opens it up to sharing outside your domain.
Got it. All right. Well, questions well answered and cool stuff provided. Richard, talk to us about Tract.
So Tract.app is a website, not an app, a website, despite the domain being .app. Really cool site. Some names you might recognize, like Angela Myers has thrown her weight behind it. It's all about kids teaching lessons to younger kids. So it's high school and college students who have recorded fun lessons about all kinds of things. You can see one there about taking stunning nature photographs, probability in Minecraft. There's one about how to master the TikTok algorithm. There's a huge range of fun topics in there, and kids can earn coins for completing the lessons, completing all the lessons, but completing a set of lessons, which are called paths. They earn these digital coins, and they can redeem those for prizes. But the prizes are not things you're going to put on your shelf, except with the exception of a couple of them. Most of the prizes are things like donating a meal to the UN program for eliminating hunger, or other worthy charitable causes like that. So it's a pretty cool little service, and teachers can sign up for a free account. And you sign up as a teacher, you can then give your students a class code so that you can kind of see how far your students have gone in it. Really neat, neat service. Kind of a nice, like an enrichment type of activities.
That's cool. I think that that the driving force behind it was Esther Wojcicki of Palo Alto High School, largest
Yes.
journalism program in the nation, I believe.
Yes.
Wildly interesting lady she is. Speaking of wildly interesting, I am always looking for really interesting stories. And it turns out that this summer, the first combo car and airplane, get that right? Car and airplane combo. Did or I don't know if it was the first one, but it was the first time one of these had done an intercity flight, right? So this took place in Slovakia, I believe, but the video of this is a really interesting little thing for prompting, kind of discussions about, what should vehicles be and why would they do the particular things they did with this car/plane. And so hopefully that's kind of a fun thing for you as you think about what it is that you want kids to be able to think about when they're thinking, a little bit more outside the box. And speaking of such things, I'll add that, here we go, right here, that our Next Vista inspiring video for the week is one that is about Boyan Slat, the European teenager who decided some 6 or 7 years ago or whatever it was that he wanted to rid the world's oceans of plastic, and is actually like doing something about it. Like they've built like all of these systems. It's crazy interesting, and he's had some real setbacks along the way. So it's interesting to think about, okay, what does it mean to have people like criticize what you do and criticize your work when you really believe in what you're doing, and how do you respond to that? And so I think that's a really kind of cool story, and we'll get that in the links as well for how things will be set up for you when we email you to let you know about where the recording is, where the slides are, with any corrections needed, and then also like what you might want to try with these NVIV. And Judith actually gives us this is great for high school students. She says, thank you, you rock. All right, Richard, talk to us about the next question.
Yeah, before we do that, I just want to throw out one other solution to Maria's question from earlier about parents competing to get the time slots. If you're not a Google Workspace school, another really good option is Jotform. Jotform.com has, I just took a quick look at it. They have like 400 templates for event and reservation systems. And I know many of them will eliminate options as they get used up. So if you have, 5 parents who all try to sign up for the same time at the same time, the one that gets there first gets it, and everybody else doesn't even see that option. So that's
nice. I added that to our links page, so people will be able to find that as well.
All right. So, question from Christina. I'm wondering what the best, if possible, free or inexpensive websites and apps are for students to make flashcards with. I want to help high school and first-year college students with retrieval practice. It'd be great to make their own decks, or if we could share decks somewhere. What options are there? So I had 2 options that came to mind. First is Flippity. If you are a longtime follower of this series, you've probably heard me mention Flippity about every other webinar, basically. Flippity.net is a great place to get templates for making cool things out of spreadsheets, including making multimedia flashcards that you could share. And because it's in Google Sheets, it could be a collaborative assignment for your students to work together to create a set of flashcards. So Flippity.net is one answer. My other answer is a service called Note, with an N, K-N-O-W, Note.io, which will take your text and turn it into flashcards and also turn it into practice quizzes. So if you have a big, long sheet of text, you can copy and paste it, or just import it. Actually, if it's in Word format or Google Doc format, you just import it, and it will extract what it thinks are the key terms and definitions, and also create a set of practice questions out of it. So a couple of choices there. But Rushton, you wanted to say something about flashcards in general, I think.
Absolutely. So as a former world languages teacher, I taught Japanese for years. Really fun thing to teach, by the way. I'm a big fan of flashcards. Flashcards were really useful to me when I was learning the characters, not just the vocabulary. And back in the day when I was studying these things, but it struck me in reading this question that there is the tool you use and the how you use it. And so I wanted to share a particular way of using flashcards that I hope will be useful to you, because you can have the best flashcards of all time. If you don't use them well, doesn't really matter, does it? So here's my thinking for this. If you have a set of physical flashcards, right? So let's say you've got 20 words you're trying to learn. And you go through those flashcards and you pick up your little flashcard and you're like, right? Did you either got it right, you didn't get it right, or you got it right, but it took you a moment. So I want you to think in those three pieces right there, right? So you either get it right, you get it, but it takes a minute, or you didn't get it right. Now, or you didn't get it at all. With those three, let's call that groups 1, 2, and 3. So group 1, you just nailed it. You nailed it. Good. Group 2, took you a minute. Group 3, yeah, you had some trouble, or you didn't get it at all. To use flashcards well, you need to maximize the amount of time that you are spending on this set, spending some time on this set, and through efficiency, not spending tons of time on this set. So if you go through your 20 cards and you put them in 3 categories here, you should then go to the stuff that you had the most trouble with, go through those again, put them down. Go to this group, go through these again, put them down. Then come back to the ones that gave you trouble, go through those, put them down, grab them all, go through them again, and over time, everything kind of makes its way to the first set. But efficiency in how you use flashcards is at least as important as the tool. Extra little thought for you, big bonus for watching 2 EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. Ding. Next question, Richard.
All right, next question came from Susan. It's a long question, so I'm going to try to boil it down a little bit. Susan works in special education, and she asked, we have a staff that's leaving, and we realize we need their emails from the past for a future audit. Is there a way for them to save a Gmail label in their drive and share it with us, or export a Gmail label? All the options we found online don't show up for us. So the reason they're not showing up for you, Susan, is that you're probably not a domain administrator. So again, this is one of those situations where you got to ask your Google Workspace domain administrator for some help, because he or she will be able to enable these functions. But basically, yes, the domain administrator can create an archive of the content of that Gmail account or that Google Workspace email account. And let's say you have a label of, grade 7 caseload, right? That's your label. Well, then you can just look at all of those as archived messages that are in Google Workspace. But the domain administrator would have to do that for you. You couldn't do that as just as the friend of someone who's leaving. You couldn't just go and do that. Nor could they. Now, the other thing is you could have that person, before they leave, use Google Takeout and use Google Takeout to take out or download all their messages and then share all those messages with you. So that's the other option. But either one would work. The answer is yes, but you're gonna need some help. So there's that.
Susan's got a pretty interesting, kind of challenge in front of her on this. And in addition to the technical issues of getting to those messages, people really need to have a mindset about how they're using email in their workspace. Because clearly, if everything that comes to your work email could be part of something that is accessible by somebody later, are students, families, colleagues sharing things with you that you don't think they want to share more broadly, right? How do you respect that privacy, assuming that you should, right? Those kinds of questions are difficult. And so you might think about having a system where you're tracking contacts with parents in a way that may be a little different. And especially if everybody's on board with, hey, we're all filling in a form that certain people have access to, and talking about different kinds of things that we encounter. Just who's got access and why, and there's just a lot of important questions there. So keep that in mind as you do this.
Yeah, I think that also gets back to thinking about how are you using your work email, and how does it flow into your personal life? Like, it's one of those, you kind of need to keep them separated. I never tried to everyone. So I'll tell you, because this happens to me after 14 years of writing about stuff. I get emails occasionally. I got one last week from someone who thought I was associated with a company whose product I reviewed about 8 years ago. And they were trying to, the long story short, they were trying to figure out how to get back into their email from that company. I'm like, I have no idea. It's like, I don't know, but the long story short of it is that person had used their work email for something where they should have probably used their personal email. And so anyway, I digress. All right, let's get on to the next question, which is, again, getting into privacy a little bit. Can you help me teach the people I'm working with how to archive Google documents they create? I keep telling them to save a copy to a thumb drive, but they just don't listen, or they forget their thumb drive at home. This question came from Alan, and I would say, number one, they're backed up to the cloud. Like, you don't have to save, unless you really need an offline copy of it, and in which case you can go to File, Export As, and export it as a PDF or a Word document or a rich text document. You can do that, and then put them on a thumb drive if you needed to. But other than that, they're backed up. There's nothing to worry about in that regard, unless of course you lose access to your Google account, in which case you got bigger issues to deal with, like how did your account get compromised? Which reminds me, you should always have two-factor authentication turned on your account.
So when I read this question, the first thought that popped in my head was, well, why? Like, why download these? And so I think, Alan, if you are listening, I would encourage you to perhaps send us some added detail, because you may be looking at this from the perspective of, hey, we're trying to achieve this end, but Richard and I aren't seeing that. And actually, a lot of problems related to EdTech come down to that kind of communication, where one person says, I need to do this, and the other person says, do you need to do this for this reason? And they spend a lot of time on that, and it turns out that the person needed to do something that seemed to require this, but it was something that could have been handled very easily had it been clear that that was the issue. So Alan, give us more detail on that one, and maybe we can come back to it. Hey, I think we got time for one more, Richard.
One more quick one from Melissa, or anyone who's here live and wants to put one in the Q&A, we'll handle that as well. Is there a way, if I scan and load a worksheet, to make the student be able to type on it? Yes, there is. teachermade.com offers that capability, as does wiser.me. And Rushton, I think you had another one too that you like.
I'm really quite impressed with Formative. Now, I think Richard and I would both quickly say that worksheets are either useful for getting to a more interesting spot with what you're discussing, or they're time killers, right? And so a digital version of a worksheet that's a time killer is no better tool than an analog, all right? But you probably already know that. The one thing that I really made me go, about Formative is not that it is designed to do things that are worksheet-ish, but that it's tools for getting into what people have answered. So if you've got a class and you've set up the questions via the worksheet in a particular way, you can look at all of those questions at the answers to one question at once, rather than having to go like in Google Classroom from document to document to document. So there's some really nice tools in Formative, goformative.com, I think it is. We'll get it in the links that are designed to help you be a lot more efficient with how you handle what you are doing in a digital worksheet. So there you go.
And goformative.com has a really cool feature that I love that's helpful for document analysis. So if you upload a PDF or a Word doc or import a Google Doc, you can then add questions directly onto a specific line of text or at the end of a paragraph in that text. And so you can ask questions, that are more of an evaluation or an analysis style question. And rather than like having kids read the document and then have a separate list of questions, they're actually answering the questions as they're reading. That's a cool feature in Formative as well. So.
Nice. Why don't we answer Judith's question? She just popped one into the chat. What is your favorite productivity tip? Teachers are so busy, it would be great to have a session on this. Cool thought from Judith. Richard, you want to go first? You want me to?
I'll go first. So number one, you can't see the way I'm holding it up right now, but I have a notebook and I just write down prioritize what I need to get done that day. Like that's going to make me feel productive at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, like I cross off these things. Did I feel productive because I did them? Yes. Good. Right. Like that's just mentally for me, very helpful. And I don't detail every little thing, like need to water plants, need to, do X, Y, Z, but like more bigger picture things that I can kind of knock off. Like that's helpful for me. The other thing that's helpful.
So you don't do like put left sock on first or something like that?
No. I mean, like today's list is to, write 2 blog posts, which I do every day. Webinar prep, record a thing about search strategies, read, and empty my inbox. Also print a mailing label. That was my list for the day, right? I didn't put things in like take kids to school, which I got to do, but that's not going to make me feel productive. It's just what I do. The other thing is I'm a big fan of automating email as much as possible. Like turn on those predictive texts in Gmail. I use canned responses in Gmail all the time. Those 2 things are really good. And the other tip I got from Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, and that is only check your email when you're actually going to answer it. Like there's a habit of, I've got 5 minutes to kill while I'm waiting for my kids to get out of school. I'm going to look at my email, but you're not actually going to answer. I'm just going to kind of look at it, right? Like, and you then kind of ignore like the things that are going to take a thoughtful response. I only answer my email when I'm going to actually answer my email. Like I don't look at it otherwise.
Cool. So Judith, for me, I would start by saying, know your quirks. Know what it is that stresses you, know what it is that kind of gets under your skin a little bit, and use those things productively. What do I mean by that? So I'm a person for whom an inbox that's like overflowing, that's a huge stressor for me. But I could have like some things piled up in my office and not worry about it. My wife is the exact opposite. She has loads of emails in her inbox, but her surroundings are neat. All right. So how do I use this to my advantage? Not my wife's issues, mine. All right. In Calendar, if there's something I know I need to get done by a certain time, I will put something in Google Calendar. There's an email notification that's a default for me, and that puts something in my inbox. And I want to get it out because that's a thing that I do, get things out of my inbox. But I don't trust myself to just get rid of it. I have to actually do it. So just in terms of my quirks, that works really well for me in getting things done. Like if it gets in my inbox, I got to handle it. So whatever it is that is your quirk, use that to your advantage. All right. Well, there's a newsletter. Matter of fact, we'll talk about a couple of newsletters. First, mine. I put one out every month, and it's got loads of free things you might want to watch or to listen to or to read or to try. And my goal is to just bring a lot of interesting stuff to you so that you don't have to go searching for it. And if that's useful to you, wonderful. Also give away like Starbucks cards each month, because why not? Because that's fun. I mean, why not? Right? And you are welcome to do that. I've written some books. If you give these a look and you want to talk about them at all, just let me know. Happy to do so. And then there is this. Talk to us about this, Richard.
Oh, Practical EdTech Handbook. It's in its 7th iteration now. It's free, 75 pages of my favorite EdTech tools, tips, strategies that you can use in your classroom. There's a whole section in there about search strategies. Got a whole section about accessibility and making your resources more accessible for all of your students. So check it out. It's free. Just go to practicaledtech.com/weekly newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter. A copy will be emailed to you, or just click the link that says free handbook and you'll get that too. You go to my YouTube channel. I've got tons of tutorials, about 1,000 of them now, on all kinds of EdTech tools, tips, and strategies. Yesterday, I published a video about an easy way to find movie clips that you can use to support your lessons or engage students in your lessons. So check that one out.
I think your expression on your face in this particular slide is something along the lines of, what? You didn't know I made a video for you? It'll answer your question. I think that's actually the message coming through on your face there. And on this face, it's just happy that you joined us for this little episode of 2 EdTech Guys Take Questions and Share Cool Stuff. Hopefully your questions got answered. Hopefully the cool stuff seems cool to you. And hopefully you'll join us again when we do this in a couple of weeks. So the first and third, I believe it's the first and third. Is that right? Second and fourth? What are we doing here? It's
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth. So second and fourth Thursdays in October, we will be doing more episodes. So I believe that means we're 3 weeks away from the next one. Is that right?
We are, yeah, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, the 14th and the 28th. You sound like the days.
Yes.
All right. So watch my newsletters and Richard's blog for info about when we're going to be doing that next. And we hope you will join us and you will send your questions, because we are very happy to try giving those answers that will be useful to you. Thank you very much for joining this recording, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.